It has been a productive but pretty exhausting weekend. Spent the entire day yesterday painting the room where my studio is going to be. I'm hoping to start recording in there. Actually, I'm hoping to start recording in there tomorrow. I think that we have fixed the echo problem. I think. I'm going to test it out later tonight just to be sure. Those of you who have become accustomed to these curtains behind me, this might be the last time you get to see them. But don't worry. I've thought ahead, and they will be a small part in the new studio. There are a lot of changes coming to the channel over the next few months. Obviously, new studio, new background. Eventually, I'm going to update all the graphics. Starting this week, I have an affiliate marketing program that we're going to be rolling out. Since the fall, I have been approached by numerous companies wanting me to endorse their products. I have finally found one that I'm comfortable endorsing. I've been using their stuff for a couple of weeks now, testing it out, making sure it's quality shit. I think you guys are going to like it. I'm not going to sit here and bombard you with it every video. I know how annoying advertising can be, but I'm going to figure out a way to include it without being annoying. It'll be another way for you guys to support the channel if you want to, while also getting something that you can use. Now, of course, you can always support the channel through Patreon if you're so inclined. Anyway, a lot of changes coming to the channel, just like there are changes that are facing the WNBA. The WNBA is sitting at a crossroads right now. And when I say the WNBA, I mean everyone involved. The league, the teams, and especially the players. I always find it ironic when professional athletes bitch and complain about something that they agreed to. Back in 2020, the WNBA and the Players Union, they agreed on a new collective bargaining agreement. The CBA, it carries the league through 2027. Now, included in the CBA was a new rule defined as prioritization. It is the first time I have ever heard of this. Never seen something like this in the NFL or the NBA. Now, of course, those leagues don't need a prioritization policy. That tends to be the case when you're relevant and important. Prioritization in the WNBA, it's going to be implemented during the 2023 season. That'll be the first season that the policy goes into effect. Now, you're not hearing too much about this right now, but trust me, this time next year, if the mainstream media is still interested in the WNBA, they're going to be pushing the shit out of this. It's going to be another case of the woke turning on the woke. As you guys know, many WNBA players supplement their income overseas. Somehow, these women struggle to make it financially on the $130,000 they're paid every season, which is the average salary in the WNBA. Now, let me ask you something. Could you survive on $130,000 a year? I shouldn't even say per year, since players in the WNBA, they're only working 5 to 6 months. Either way, would you be able to survive on that income? Unless you're living in New York City, Los Angeles, where you're taxed into oblivion, a mid-six-figure salary, that is enough to live comfortably. That doesn't include the money players are making off endorsements. But you guys know how WNBA players are. They feel they're entitled to more. What ends up happening in the WNBA, these players who play overseas, they end up missing training camp and the start of the regular season. Many of these women play in Russia, which is part of the Euro League. The playoffs in the Euro League, they run through late May. Training camp in the WNBA starts in April. Regular season begins early May. I'm sure you see the conundrum. Take Brittany Griner, for example. The Phoenix Mercury were in the WNBA Finals last year. Brittany Griner plays for them. She is the star of the team. She would miss all of training camp and the first month of the regular season. Now, she is at risk of missing the entire season because she's detained in some shithole Russian jail. The prioritization policy is just what it sounds like. Prioritization. The WNBA wants its players to prioritize the WNBA over playing overseas. Starting next season, WNBA players who miss a day of training camp because they're playing overseas will be fined 1% of their salary for every day they miss. 2 days, 2%. 10 days, 10%. You get it. If they show up late for the regular season, they could be suspended for the entire year. If an important player like Brittany Griner is thinking, my team would never suspend me for the season, I'm too important to their success. They're thinking wrong. The teams have zero jurisdiction enforcing this policy. It's enforced by the WNBA front office. The only exception, if a player has less than 3 years in the league, they are exempt from prioritization. The veteran players, shit out of luck. The rules, they get stricter starting in 2024. Fuck fining players 1% of their salary for every day of camp missed. If a player shows up late for training camp, one day late, don't bother. They will be suspended the entire season. Basically, if you want to play in the WNBA, you are going to be exclusive to the WNBA. No more playing overseas. Do you see the crossroads now? Contrary to what the media wants you to believe, this fucking league can't draw ratings when their so-called star players are playing in the games. What the hell's going to happen when the top players in the WNBA aren't allowed to play? Put yourself in the player's position just for 1 second. Max salary in the WNBA, $230,000 a year. Over in Russia, they can make close to $1 million, or in some cases over $1 million, or, 1 trillion worthless rubles. Which option are you going to go with? Most people are going to follow the money. The WNBA, they do have one distinct advantage over playing overseas. Playing overseas sucks. You're playing in countries like Russia, Turkey, maybe one day China if they ever release their control over the COVID, which ain't happening anytime soon. Other than the comfort of playing at home, though, the WNBA has no advantage. They cannot compete financially with teams in Russia because they don't have the fucking money to compete. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, she is trying, God bless her, she's trying to fix this problem. She raised $75 million this offseason from woke corporations wanting to prove that we support women athletes, as well as the WNBA players with facial hair. Just kidding. Leah Thomas hasn't been drafted yet. Maybe WNBA salaries will increase eventually, but are they going to be able to raise $75 million every offseason? What happens when the media finds another cause to invest in? What happens when the WNBA is not the sympathy league for the woke movement anymore? What happens then? That $75 million? Gone. It's going to dry up quickly. Perhaps they can raise money through TV rights. The WNBA, their broadcast rights deal's coming up soon. I think it might be 2024. Right now, the league makes $25 million per year through their TV deal, which is $10 million less than your average superstar NBA player. It's being reported the WNBA will be looking for $100 million every year when negotiations begin. $100 million? For this league? Good fucking luck with that. The media likes to claim Major League Soccer gets $90 million, so the WNBA should easily get $100 million. There's a huge difference between Major League Soccer and the WNBA. Major League Soccer, they have a built-in core audience, a dedicated audience. Their ratings are consistent. The WNBA, they've seen a small spike in ratings recently, but is that really sustainable? That remains to be seen. I think not, though. While I understand why they implemented prioritization, this policy could be the beginning of the end of the WNBA. Right now, star players, they are signing one-year deals instead of long-term contracts. Why? According to the Washington Post, Brianna Stewart, she is a superstar for the Seattle Storm. Clearly, me and the Washington Post have different definitions of what constitutes a superstar. Anyway, she recently signed a one-year deal with the Seattle Storm. Why? Prioritization. She didn't want to risk giving up her rights to play overseas to continue having the opportunity to play in the WNBA for what she believes is shitty money. Diana Taurasi? She said WNBA players are forced to go to communist countries in order for them to be paid like capitalists. What an interesting choice of words. I am so glad she said that. The fucking irony. These women have been pushing social justice for years: equity, equal pay for all, diversity, and inclusion. Yet, when shit affects them financially, suddenly they're all about capitalism. Speaking of capitalism, let me explain how the system works, since WNBA players seem to have a hard time comprehending. In a capitalist system, the way you make money, you generate profit, something the WNBA has never done. The reason you had to go play overseas, you don't make any fucking money here in America. If the WNBA were operating under a true capitalist system, instead of socialism being subsidized by the NBA and sympathetic donors, they call that redistribution of wealth. But if the WNBA were actually operating under true capitalism, you know how much money players would be making? With capitalism, you're paid based off of your value. What's the value of the WNBA? Zero. Nothing. Matter of fact, since the league loses $10 million every year, the fucking players should owe the league money. They should send WNBA players a bill every 2 weeks instead of a paycheck. Like I said in the beginning, the WNBA, they are standing at a crossroads right now. It's great. It is great they were able to raise $75 million in funding this offseason. Here's the problem, though. You can only play on people's sympathy for so long. You can't depend on that type of funding. It's not sustainable. Are they going to stand by prioritization and eliminate overseas play, or will the WNBA ease up on the policy? I would imagine the CBA would have to be ratified, but the thing is, the players agreed to this 2 years ago. They agreed to it. They're not going to be able to increase salaries enough over the next year to compensate for the money players are making overseas. You can't rely on outside funding. It's not a reliable source long term. The only way for the WNBA to fix the money problem is to generate more revenue. The only way to do that is to increase television ratings and attendance, increase your reach. And 25 going on 26 years, the WNBA has never been able to accomplish that. But let me know what you think. The WNBA, at a crossroads, do you think they stand by prioritization, or will they eventually fold and allow players to continue playing overseas? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.